Okay, so for our second asymmetric excerpt, we're using Greg Saunders' piece entitled Prairie Wind. Rather obscure piece, but for the sake of what we are doing here, it provides a wonderful opportunity again for us to conduct in multiple meters, kind of going back to back, speaking to some of the same things that we did in postcard, but at a different dynamic level. So this excerpt tends to be mostly forte and double forte, more powerful dynamics. So the question becomes, when we have to do something that is at a faster tempo, but more powerful dynamics, how can we convey the power of the dynamic, not creating too large of a box? If we conduct in that larger, let's say louder box, the problem becomes the tempo is going to lag. Physically, kinesthetically, we're just going to slow things down. So to be able to do this effectively, again, a lot of it has to do with the power of the elbow and the power of the wrist, kind of getting away from the shoulder, not too much large gross motor movement from the shoulder. All right, so the hard snap, again, shows a couple of things. It shows articulation, it shows power. All right, the other thing here is the intensity. Okay, so facial intensity. You can't have just this kind of static facial expression and conduct the time, all right? It's intense, so you need to be intense. You need to sell yourself to that music to sell the product to your students. All right, so a couple things about this particular excerpt. We talked about the first full measure is in 4/4 time, but technically, rhythmically, it's in 8/8. And so we talked about the practicality of that particular bar. The practicality says that I have to make sure that I've got the eighth note and the time going. And so though you could conduct a 3 pattern, an 8/8 pattern, 3 + 3 + 2, in that first full bar, it's probably not the best way to go about starting the ensemble. You want to get the engine rolling, you want to get that eighth note rolling. So it would be my suggestion, and the way that I've done this, what I've done in the past, is I take that first full bar 4/4 time, establish the eighth note. Now the second time that comes in, it's measure 10. Measure 10, I do think about that as an 8/8 bar. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, based upon the eighth note's already in motion. Again, kind of going back to postcard and that empty measure and the stop time, the eighth note is traveling right now, and so I don't see that it's necessary that I've got to beat that time anymore, and I can conduct the pulsation of the music the second time through. So you'll notice that the first full measure I'll conduct in 4, and again I'm going to have to react to the start as you guys did. But we get to 10, it's going to go to a 3 pulse, so we can conduct that in 8/8, again because it meets the metrics of the piece, the pulsation of the piece. So again, we're communicating a better, more effective message in how we choose to conduct it the second time. All right, there's a couple things in here to be aware of. If you look at the fourth full measure, actually the third full measure, the 4/4 times, off of count 2, we've got these and 3/4s. Trombone sections, the second time it's the saxophones and trombones and low brass, and those entrances there. So it's good to get hands to a spot and show them that place. You know, 1 2 and 3 4, 1 2 and 4 and, right? So you throw them a hard 3 because they're playing on the upbeat, right? And musicians to play on an upbeat entrance in need to know where the downbeat is. So it's not trying to cue on the eighth note, it's cueing on the pulse before it. The downbeat, so the musicians can react to the upbeat. It sets them up to be able to move out of that 4/4 bar and into the 5. The pulsing of all of the asymmetric meters, the 5s and the 7s, is pretty straightforward. When we get to 2/10, we have a couple things. We have a forte piano crescendo in the upper wind, so we need to make sure that we show that. Now notice, it's not going to be a huge gesture. Sting, right here. And you notice that when we, going way back to when we talked about connecting the hands to the face, not touching your face, connecting the hands to your face, you can connect the intent, right? The power, the significance, the emotion of it, with the precision of it, with what the hands are doing. All right, so if you get this forte piano and we hit it and we get the hand way out of the way and then bring it way back up, we're kind of, you know, what is the purpose of that? So you can be precise here, sting and down and up. You can do that very within a small box intently. So you show a good accent, a good articulation, forte piano. Similarly, you got that big suspended cymbal roll, which is very open, 1 before 10. All right, so for whoever that cymbal player is, they need to be confident about that entrance. They've been basically sitting on their hands since I think the 3rd full measure. So you've got to make sure that you've got that cue there. That's significant. And then, as I mentioned before, when we get into 10, 10 is a 4/4 bar, but it's pulsed in 8/8, so a 3/3/2 pulse to make that work. Okay, so we'll do the excerpt. Again, I'm going to have to react to it, so I apologize for being a little bit late, but we will do our best. All right. And here we go. So again, trying to show a few of those kind of things. For example, the 7/8 bar, I didn't mention it earlier, the 7/8 bar, that's 1 before 19. A key element in there, you know, the band is fairly engaged already, but you've got, there's the whip part. So that person is back there in the back ready to crack the whip, right? You got to make sure that they see that. That's a cueable moment, at least for me in my impression, in making that work as well. All right, I hope that this kind of helped explain, along with the first video that I showed you, helped explain my approach to these things a little bit better than the dialogue box in the Dropbox. As we move forward, remember, these excerpts, we're not done. You can continue to work on these excerpts and hone your craft. Conducting is no different than working on your voice, working on your instrument, and developing the skill set. You have to practice it. So I will encourage you to find other excerpts that are similar, that allow you to stretch the parameters of meter and work in those. Buy scores, look up scores online, and practice the craft. It will not get better if we just apportion this to this 1 credit class. We do our conducting stuff, we take our final, and then we're done. You're not. You're just beginning. All right, so what from basic conducting and choral conducting and instrumental conducting in the curriculum, what we are doing is we have provided you tools, all right, tools to put in that conducting toolbox. The more tools you have, the more of a craftsman you can become. All right, if we just get caught up in, I want to make sure I can conduct the meter appropriately, all we are is a metronome, right? If we don't practice getting that left hand out, using it effectively, videotaping, and then looking back at the video and reflecting, self-reflection. I do this all the time. Was I clear? Was the information that I was giving, was that appropriate for what I wanted back? Sometimes the answer is no, and I've got to think about it a little bit more and make some corrections to work with a specific group. So this is just the beginning of a continued process that most of you will go through for your career, I hope. I think it's one of the greatest opportunities to be a musician that you can undertake, because you get to be that connecting device between the sounds musicians are making and the audience that's behind you. You get to take all of this language that we have in front of you, and you get to create a model. You get to create a model of what you hear in the music. And then you need to emulate that. You need to emulate that for the people that are playing for you. Like I said, if I have a section where I'm supposed to come in as a trombonist and I've got a double forte entrance, and that conductor gets those eyes right to me and gives me that, they're going to get my 100%, 110% effort. If I'm left to my own devices, I'm going to play it when I think it is appropriate based upon my knowledge base. All right, so making that connection. Secondly, conducting that significant, that emotion to the audience. And it doesn't mean that we are flamboyant and we're showy as a conductor. No, actually, I think it's just the opposite. I think we're being very practical. I'm providing a physical manifestation of the sounds that I hope are going to come out through me to the ensemble. And I think for me, that's kind of the artistry of being a conductor. It's why I continue to try to get better with every new piece that I undertake. I'm taking things that I've learned from the past, trying to apply it to new material, and I'm continually, after 30-something years of doing this kind of stuff, I'm still working on honing my craft, trying to communicate better, and being a better conductor. So I hope these videos help explain just a little bit, and hopefully we'll have a couple more before the semester is over. All right, everybody, thank you.